In the absence of our mayor and mayor pro tem, I'm Richard White, town manager, calling the meeting of the Town Council of Carrboro to order on April 4th, 2023. The first item of business will be for the council to elect a chair for tonight, and it will take a nomination to do that.
Yes, and so thank you, Town Manager White. I would like to nominate Danny Now, Councilmember Danny Now, to chair the meeting this evening.
Okay, Councilmember Danny Now has been nominated. Are there any other nominations?
Do we second this?
Is there a second? Yes.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion approved. So we'll turn it over to Councilmember No.
So we're in business here. I'm going to resist the urge to do my comedy routine that I've been saving for this moment.
Do the comedy.
And I think we got to begin with we need to excuse the absences of our three members who are not here. We have various reasons, from travel detainment to illness to very happy news. Susan's son is getting married, so we're running a bit of a skeleton crew tonight. So do I have a motion to excuse the three members who are not present? Randy moves.
Second.
Seconded by Barbara. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And they are excused. It will not be on their permanent record. Tonight's agenda has a couple of introductory items, a proclamation from the mayor for Poetry Month, and a resolution supporting extension of the temporary protected status program for Guatemala. In the latter case, with the TPS resolution, I believe that was something we wanted to do when we were all present. And in the former case, the Poetry Month proclamation, I think, really is most appropriate coming from the mayor. I would hate to usurp that. So I would entertain a motion to move those to next meeting if there is the desire among council.
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Sammy, seconded by Barbara to move the proclamation for Poetry Month and the resolution supporting extension of the temporary protected status program for Guatemala to next meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, and with that, I will kick it to our town clerk to announce any upcoming public meetings.
Thank you. Good evening, council. I have a few meeting announcements I'm going to announce for 2 weeks' time, since the council will not meet next week due to the holiday. First up, we have the Recreation and Parks Commission meeting April 10th at 7 o'clock at Carrboro Century Center. All right. Just want to make sure that was right. And then Nick. Yeah. Okay. To repeat what Charles Harrington, the interim director, just said, they will be meeting at the Century Center, and then they will be doing park tours. Okay, at 7 o'clock. Next, we have the Arts Committee meeting on April 12th at 6 p.m. at the Century Center. Next up, the Economic Sustainability Commission meeting, April 12th at 6 p.m. That will be held at Carrboro Town Hall. Next, on April 13th, we have the Stormwater Advisory Commission meeting at 6:30 p.m., and that will be held virtually. Also on April 13th, we have the Appearance Commission at 7:30 p.m. That will be held here at Town Hall. Next, we have also on April 13th, the Environmental Advisory Board at 7:30 p.m., and that will be virtually. Northern Transition Area Advisory Committee, April 13th at 7:30 p.m. at Town Hall. It's a busy night. Then we have the Planning Board meeting, also on April 13th at 7:30 p.m. Will be held virtually. Also, the Transportation Advisory Board at 7:30 p.m. that same night on April 13th virtually. And then the next Town Council meeting will be April 18th at 7 o'clock.
I trust we will all remember that. You know, it occurs to me that in my haste to not screw this up, I have screwed this up. And I am reminded that we have our poet laureate Liza Wolfe-Francis here for our poetry reading tonight. Yes, so Liza, if you would join us at the podium, I'm going to do this off schedule here and beg everybody's pardon here. Always a pleasure to get this. Apologies for overlooking.
I know that Charles is back there texting you, maybe. No,
Oh, he
or
actually,
somebody.
He texted me just about something totally different.
Okay.
All the tea.
Well, it's good to see you all tonight and the comedy routine. You're doing great. And I think it's, I'm excited to hear the proclamation for Poetry Month, but it's okay that it waits, of course. But I do want to wish everybody a happy Poetry Month. It's National Poetry Month, and we're celebrating it here in Carrboro, too. So please keep your eyes out for events going on. There's quite a few of them. Question: what are your many callings? I doubt the cows in the field down off the old state highway ask what their callings in life are. I say hello to them every time I pass, and if they aren't there grazing closer to the fence line or by the bushels of hay, I look for them hidden in the trees, their bodies thick and brown and white coats, standing next to each other like a group of friends, sharing the same experience that they will look back on years from now and say, "Remember the time." I doubt the cows say that either, or maybe they do as they lie together under the trees away from the sun. My mother always said it would rain if the cows were lying down, so I consider it might, and I look at the sky, though my mother knew little of cows. It is a human thing, I guess, to wonder about a calling, to claim it and go forth as if there were no fence keeping us in or holding us back. It can also be our calling to lie down on earth, feel its dense body on our flesh, feel the rain on our skin. It can be our calling to keep together for storms and sun and to graze on the sweet grass as long as the day keeps our lumbering bodies. Thank you.
Thank you, Liza.
Happy Poetry Month.
Thank you.
All right. And
Calendar item.
and Randy has an addition to the upcoming meetings calendar.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out, because this is really cool, that the Poetry by Design will be held on Monday, April 10th from 4:30 to 6:30 at the Winmore Village Green, and it's a community gathering. So it's wonderful to see poetry out in the community and that the neighborhoods are participating. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Randy. And now I do not have the list, so and it seems like we have nobody signed up
No,
for
unless,
public comment, unless anybody wants to get in on this open mic night. All right, yeah. So with that, we are going to move into the consent agenda, and I will turn it over to the manager.
Thank you, council member. The first item on the consent agenda is the approval of the June 14, 2022 minutes with an amendment by Councilmember Slade. The next item is appointments to the Stormwater Advisory Commission. The next item on the agenda is the amendment of Town Code Chapter 3 to expand the Climate Action Team. The purpose of this agenda item is to provide the Town Council with a proposed amendment to expand the Climate Action Team from 9 to 13 members. The next item is appointments to the Climate Action Team, and that concludes the consent agenda.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Yeah, I just want to pull item 2 for a correction.
All right, so Sammy, can you amend your motion?
4.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second? Second. All in favor of approving items 1, 3, and 4, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Randy, number 2.
Yeah, on page 22 of the Stormwater Advisory Board applications, I just wanted the correction to be noted, since it never got updated, that Elizabeth Vollins did attend not 1 but 2 advisory board meetings for the Stormwater Advisory Board, and or rather with the Stormwater Advisory Board, and it's not reflected in our current agenda, so if you'd make that correction. Thank you.
Okay, with that correction noted for the record, which we appreciate, Randy, thank you very much. I would entertain a motion to approve number 2.
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we are through the consent agenda. Thanks so much for catching that, Randy. And to Richard. With that, I believe that brings us to any... Nope, that's later. Other matters here are, we have the a presentation, I believe, from the task force, the Truth Plaque Task Force, to discuss our newest Truth Plaque Task Force for Tony and Nellie Strayhorn. So very excited to hear more about this. And if we could hear from the task force, that would be great.
Yeah, we'll have a short presentation from some members of the Truth Plaque Task Force. Come on up.
Oh, wonderful.
Sit if you want.
Yes, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lily Atwater, and this is only a portion of the task force. We have some absent people also. And because I have to use this cane, I'm going to turn it over to Terry Buckner to talk with you all about what we have done, okay?
So, I would like to introduce the rest of the team. This is Dolores Clark. She is the current owner of the Strayhorn House, the one that we are going to memorialize tonight. And this is May, and May has been...
McClendon.
I'm blanking on your last name. McClendon. Yeah. So anyway, we are the members here tonight. So this is our third truth plaque. The first one we did is out on the front porch of the building here, recognizing the name of Carrboro and the truth of how we actually got to that name. The second one is about a school, a Freedmen's School that was in the site of the current car wash, although the plaque is on the other side of the street due to DOT. And so this is our third one. And here's the text that Dolores Clark's family came up with for the plaque. So, enslaved in Orange County, Tony and Nellie Strayhorn were one of the first black families to settle in Carrboro. After purchasing 30 acres of land, they built the one-room log cabin in 1879, which has been added on to over the years. This home is a historic landmark and a testament to their faith, resilience, and determination to persevere. And so we are requesting the council approve this text. The plaque itself will be on a pole in Ms. Clark's front yard. We've had discussions whether or not we want text on both sides. I think we only need it on the side facing the public because Dolores knows what it says. She wrote it. And that way we will spend less and we can do another plaque this year. So this is the house, and the star is where the plaque would be on a post. And so this is the plaque. The plaque out here is posted on the wall, so we didn't have to put it on a post, but the Carrboro Public Works will do the installation for us, and this is what it will look like. And the cost, so for well, there's a typo here. So the cost for a single-sided plaque is $2,558.05. And so that keeps us under budget and gives us the funding to do yet another plaque this year. And because we didn't do any during COVID, we still have additional money so we can keep going like the Energizer bunnies that we are. And so we right now, Ms. Clark's house is under renovation. So she's having some structural work and some cosmetic work done to it. And that is scheduled to be completed in May, I believe.
Hopefully. In May.
Hopefully. And so we want to postpone putting the plaque up until that work is completed. So we're estimating early June for it.
Yes.
But that could change depending on the construction work. So we are asking your permission to proceed.
Yes.
Yes, Barbara.
Barbara.
And thank you for the presentation. I know that my husband, Braxton, who's not here, as well as some others, were interested in the double-sided plaque. Because if it's near the sidewalk, I'm assuming one-sided, it would just be facing out
It's going to face the road.
face the road. And so who's going to see that?
Anybody who's walking by on the sidewalk,
I,
either direction.
Okay, Terry. So I just want to put before this council that this plaque be double-sided instead of one-sided, so you could see it no matter what direction you were coming down the street. Because I know that some of the Truth Plaque Task Force members that are not here were very interested in the double-sided versus the one-sided. And we're talking about telling the truth here, so is there an amount of money to be put on telling the truth?
I think it's a point really well raised, Barbara. And since we're under budget overall with either option, I think it's fully reasonable. The one concern or question I would have would be whether going double-sided would impact our ability to do additional plaques this year, as is your desire, or being that we're under budget and we had the COVID gap, could we still pursue those?
We've never really understood the budget. Kathy took care of all of that. And so Wesley's had a learning curve, and I was not able to help him with that because Kathy just did it all. So we don't know where the 19,000 came from. So
Yeah, I can speak to that. That is currently what is sitting in the line item. So there would be enough funds available because with the next budget, we'll probably propose another $5,000.
Great. So yeah, so that 5,000 figure is additional on top of the 19.4. We can afford the double-sided and more. Great. Well, then I don't see any downside.
So just to be clear, though, the only people seeing the backside of the plaque would be coming from the house.
Depends on how the positioning.
Yeah, right.
If you position it so it's. You see what
So
I'm saying?
if this is the road and
Yeah.
this is the sidewalk, the plaque would be set like
Unless you do
this.
it like this.
You gotta turn it around.
So if we turned it
Yeah.
this
Like,
way,
That's the only
That would
way.
be good.
that if we did it double-sided, we would turn it both ways. But doing it single-sided, you can still, everybody can still see it.
And
So
there's
that's
a
the
lot of
option.
So-
Positioning would be the thing
Yeah.
what you have to look at.
Yeah.
For double sign.
Yeah, it makes sense to make it perpendicular to the sidewalk if it's going to be double-sided. My question is, what have we done with other plaques? Are they double-sided or single-sided? I know the one on the town hall obviously is one-sided because it's on a wall, but there's the one, St. Paul, what is that?
double-sided.
And it has the same text on both sides. So,
But
I
it
mean,
is set perpendicular, and it is set perpendicular.
right, so maybe just for consistency's sake, it would make sense also.
Also, the positioning of St. Paul, if I may speak, is the location. And you got that major intersection right there and the sidewalk and the church.
Mhm.
So that's
Okay.
Well, I think it's appropriate in this instance that it be double-sided, that the foot traffic comes heavily from both areas, and I think for consistency, as Sammy's noting, and for the fact that it fits in the budget, if it doesn't displease the task force, then I think we will go in that direction. Thank you, Barbara, and thank you, Sammy. So I have before us a resolution to approve this text and location. And if there's no further discussion, other than our thanks to Dolores and Lily, May, Terry, and the rest of the task force, this is really important work, and I think makes us all feel much more grounded in living here and having these. And I think it's wonderful to have this landmark given its proper due in this sort of high traffic area. So thank you so much for your work.
Thank you for your approval. Yes.
And I will entertain a motion with the addition that we recommend. A motion to approve the resolution with the addition that we recommend a double-sided plaque in this instance.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously to approve a double-sided plaque commemorating the Strayhorn home.
Dolores, the statement is beautiful.
Yeah, it's always lovely when we're able to make these happen. All right, so we'll move on to our next item of business, which is an adoption of a facilities naming policy. Mr. Manager, is there, I believe, a presentation associated with this?
Yes, this is for the council to consider adopting an official naming policy for town-owned facilities and rooms, and also to request the town to work with the Orange County Board of Commissioners to establish a joint naming committee as well. And Zach Heyer, our assistant town manager, is here to give a brief overview of the agenda item.
Oh, go ahead, Zach. Is he going to talk about the joint naming and all that? I mean, I don't, is he going to talk about that?
He's going to give an overview of the...
All of it.
Yeah, all of it, yes.
Yeah. So good evening, council. It's my first time up here, so I'm a little nervous.
Welcome.
Don't be nervous.
Glad there's only a few of you. It makes me a little less nervous. I'm more in the background making those reports and everything, but Richard's
All
putting me out
crowd
here.
tonight.
All good. Yeah, so as we know, the 203 project is being built, and the 203 project is the working title of the name, but it is of the best interest to have an official name for the project. And as Carrboro continues to expand, there may be other buildings or rooms that need to be named in the future. And as of now, we do not have an official naming policy for buildings and facilities. There is a policy for roads and for different memorials, but we don't have one for rooms and names. So we are recommending that that we bring this to you as the council and kind of get this feedback. So I don't actually have a presentation. Yeah, so if you look in your packets, the first thing you'll see is the Orange County's policy. Now, this was back in 1989 that they adopted this one. And what you'll see there in the black is their actual policy. And then in the red is what Chapel Hill does. There was some interest by the mayor to see what Chapel Hill does to be somewhat consistent. But of course, this is a joint project with Orange County. So, overall, the policies for the two are somewhat similar. Chapel Hill's policy is a little more formal. They have a standing naming committee, which can bring recommendations for names for facilities. They have a little bit more of a public input feedback where they take public comments. Orange County, their Board of Commissioners, tends to handle things more just at the board level. They don't have a standing meeting committee. They also do welcome public comment if there's significant interest in it, but it just kind of depends on, the facility that's being named. Let's see. You'll also see the attached racial equity pocket questions for this policy because we know that names have significant impacts on people, especially in the South, so we want to make sure that it's an equitable naming process. So we're recommending that you review this policy and consider adopting one similar to Orange County and also developing a joint naming committee with the Orange County because of their significant investment in the policy as well.
Barbara, go ahead and open questions.
Just leading. So thank you, Zachary, for the lead-in for this agenda item. So I had two questions, and I think maybe the first one may be for Councilmember Slade and Haven O'Donnell, who've been on the council. Is there any history with naming here in town? I know we don't have a policy, but have you guys had any experience where you've been a part of naming anything here in the community?
Well, Martin Luther King Park.
Who did? But that was that went through Parks and Rec. Did that go through the Parks and Rec?
I believe there was some input. I want to say there was community input. There was a community input process.
I think you're right.
For that, yeah, May is shaking her head.
Okay.
So, but other than that, and the other building that was built was Fire Station 2, which that's the name.
Fire Station 2.
Works.
Right. So there really hasn't been any other town construction, but I believe that the process is one where the community has input. So, and I guess my question to follow up on that is, because this building is going to be a partnership with Orange County, does that mean that it becomes a county public engagement as well as
that was
the
my
town?
Next
so,
question, like, what is this joint naming committee like?
Right.
Right, because it is in Carrboro, but it's partially owned by us, partially owned by them. We are recommending that, and we talked with Orange County's staff and recommending that they create this joint advisory committee and, nominate certain members, whether it's, a certain quorum from our board and their board, and they come together and make a process, whether that's they have a public comment period, whether they have a naming contest, whether they have some kind of established policy. But just, we don't want to just name the whole building ourselves and be like, oh, I know it's your library, but, we'll be collaborative, of course.
I think that would also help to generate the question of whether the library has a separate name from the building.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We'd have to tackle that as well.
So, in regard to the general policy, I kind of like the Orange County model more in that it doesn't require a committee that's involved. We have so few times in which we do this that it doesn't make sense to have a standing committee for that purpose. And kind of built in is a public hearing on the question. I presume, or I would like, for when we set up that public hearing, as is typical when we are setting the schedule for a public hearing, that we have an opportunity to refer it to the appropriate advisory boards. So if that can be included in the draft text when that comes before us, I would appreciate it. And yeah, those are my, and maybe, I don't know if it needs to be built into our text, but maybe enlisting our public relations person to get the word out and make submissions to the council as like part of building whatever the agenda item is, or items or ideas to consider by the council.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for my part, I definitely agree that the county seems like the more streamlined model and the one that makes the more sense for us. I guess I do wonder, obviously it gives us the room to always convene a public feedback process as we would deem appropriate. Is there any sense in codifying that beyond what Orange County has done? I mean, honestly, 2.1.3 seems, as in their draft, seems to kind of cover this. The change can only be done with a public participation process that is sort of done on a per basis. I mean, honestly, I think I'm pretty comfortable adopting the county policy pretty straightforwardly. I think maybe to Sammy's point, we would want to put some kind of like time barrier in for like public notice before the board would make a decision.
And I guess another thing I'm thinking about is we're down three of our colleagues. And so are we actually going to vote tonight? Or are we just, kind of weighing in what we think, shorthanded? I guess is a question.
Well, so in the agenda here, are we looking for feedback? I don't have a resolution to.
Yes, we didn't bring it forward for you. You can adopt it tonight if you want. We just modeled the Orange County version, but we didn't bring the actual draft, if you will. We wanted your input first to kind of see what you thought. Yes,
I
and
would
we
think
can bring
maybe
it back with.
maybe input. I mean, I know that the members missing are pretty comfortable with this agenda item being acted on. But I think it probably is most appropriate to just give feedback and maybe see it again on a consent agenda. If that's, I think that's a good way to proceed.
With a 2-week break in between meetings, it gives time for the rest of the council to send some emails and get their opinions out as well. If we need to change it up.
So, do we have any further feedback here? I guess I would think, I would say, why not? Public naming is not going to come up often. It's sort of a big deal. Why not add a 90-day public notice stipulation to the county, just so that we have, public engagement, even beyond whatever formal process, our comms department can put it out. People can email in, participate however they see fit. I think 90 days is reasonable and appropriate. But otherwise, do we have further suggestions or feedback? We're pretty comfortable with the county model.
Yeah, I guess my only question is, since there are two questions here, one is how to proceed with a specific naming of 203 and this general policy. If it were to be put on a consent agenda, I think the general policy would be appropriate for that. My question is, for the specific question on the 203, do we want to make a recommendation tonight that could also be included in the consent agenda. And if our other members find need to pull it and adjust it, then so be it.
So I guess it sounds like we intend for there to be a committee with the county that will do like sort of an ad hoc process for this single building.
Maybe it's just that conversation with the county and see what their counter proposal is in terms of like specific number of, I guess, would we want it just to be commissioners and council members, or do we want to broaden it? Do you have any preference at this moment?
Oh, for the joint, you're on the joint naming. The joint naming?
Yeah.
I think we need more information. I think we need to reach out to the county.
What the county would want.
At least get a read on the pulse of how they see this.
Who do they want to serve? Elected people?
Well, or whether or not, I mean, they're even entertaining the idea that this is something that they need to engage in. We don't even know. You know what I mean?
Well, it sounds like that conversation has happened a little bit with staff.
Yes, I did speak with the county manager, so that's how we got here. But yeah, what I propose, if I could work with the county manager and we could come back with a proposal between staff, and we can share that on both sides with elected officials and see where that goes with the proposal.
What my
might look
question
like.
is whether or not they have interest in having a joint committee.
So through the county manager, that's how, yes, I understand through the county manager, we would proceed, yeah, to do that, yes.
So I think it would probably be appropriate. So for this specific document, which will only sort of apply for this project, I think we're most of the way there. But it sounds like it would be appropriate to note that in the case of joint ownership, we have approval and review of the process through the committee there. I would just add some language to our policy to sort of make sure that that joint ownership provision is accounted for, and that our policy won't be superseded. And that we have review and approval for any joint ownership naming.
There needs to be discussion of not only the building, but the library and then the rooms. Because there's multiple ways that naming
Right.
could,
And I know-
variations.
Chapel Hill has a separate policy. Like they have one policy for just like the buildings. Then there's one for like gymnasiums, tennis courts, stuff like that. So there are separate policies for facilities. For example, in Chapel Hill, there are certain like sponsorship availabilities where you can like certain groups with very stringent restrictions can like pay to sponsor certain facilities and stuff, but they have a lot of like who cannot. So that's something that the county doesn't do quite as much, but Chapel Hill is a little more specific about those rules. So you're right, it would be a different policy.
Yeah, and I'm thinking in terms of 203, there could be interest in naming for the teen center, or there could be interest in naming for the job skill center, because we've got a synergy going on. And so that's why.
So definitely just want to make sure that we have the opportunity to review that process as accounted for in our overall policy, and that we expect to be able to approve any collaborative naming procedures per project. I think that's really well taken, Randy. Does this give us what we need on this
It's a
item?
point of clarity, though. So I heard that you want to add a 90-day public engagement.
Notice to the town that I think like a public notice that the council is going to begin considering a naming process. I think, beyond even, and check me on this, colleagues. To my mind, that gives people the opportunity to literally just send an email, weigh in. We hear from people, any consideration. But if it's unnecessary and is going to kind of like complicate any other naming scope.
I mean, for me, I the way I see it happening is it would come before the town council to, as we do with any public hearing, that we are going to set approval of this naming for public hearing. And I presume it's at least a month, because typically we have one time a month when public hearing happens. And when we approve of that public hearing, maybe this would be written in the policy. Our public relations person is asked to, let it be known that we are in process and want feedback. Maybe that's the way to do it. I don't know if 90 days is necessary.
At least 30.
At least 30, or if maybe not even, maybe just at least 30.
Settling into what we normally
Yeah.
do.
Following our other public hearing procedures, that seems reasonable. Does that help?
It does. And the other request I heard was that this would go to advisory boards.
Like when we get a request for a public hearing, we typically have suggestions from staff, but also blanks for if the council wants to also refer it to other advisory boards. So that same document applied for this purpose.
Fantastic. All right, we're gonna
Thank you.
we're gonna get to the bottom of this whole naming thing. Our next, hopefully, we have more than 3 things to name in the next century.
Zach said I ain't wasting no time. I'm going back to my seat.
Thank you, Zach. And thank you to our staff for helping us consider that. It is very exciting to think about needing that policy a little bit more. So that's nice. I think for our next item, for appointments to the planning board, I am going to turn it over to our clerk. I imagine this will follow pretty similar procedure to the last several ones of these, but if you have anything else that you want to note.
Yeah, I'm wondering, do we want to, given that it's, from my perspective, a significant number of both applicants and vacancies, do we want to postpone this so that our other colleagues can have an opportunity?
That would be fine.
I'm not opposed. I think unless Mr. Manager, you think that for any reason would conflict with what we think is coming down the pipeline over the next several meetings?
No, it can be moved to the next agenda.
All right.
Yes.
One question I do have is, I noticed that Terry is applying for ETJ, but today I was reminded that she's currently serving on the Truth Black Committee, I believe, right? And since it's not really an appointment from the town council, if you could just provide in the agenda abstract for next time we visit this, your perspective on if there's any conflict with our policy in that regard or not, because I think our policy says that we tend to not want one person on 2 boards, but maybe it speaks nothing to recommendations.
Yep. I can speak to that now.
Sure.
If there is a member or an applicant that's interested in serving on a board and already is serving on another, the policy states that council can obviously override the policy to appoint them, but it does in there say generally that to not have someone serving on more than one.
Okay.
It's pretty vague in what it says. But that's
Have you reached out to Terry to understand like any preference if she had to go with one or the other, or do we know?
I have not. Her application actually came through to us via the county. She applied via the county. So the county clerk sent that. That appointment is a little unique because it's this board would recommend an appointment to the county for the ETJ seat. And also, as you saw in your agenda abstract, that we have 2 candidates for the ETJ seat as well. So hers being the newest one and the current member serving many years in that role.
Maybe it's a question to ask her if that's something you could do. I think that would be a valuable thing for us to know.
Yeah, I can reach out to her.
Yeah, please, Randy.
Wesley, would you clarify the candidate applicant, David Sylveston? It says under the most recent appointment date that he is appointed to the TAB, so should he be on this list?
Yes and no. It's all up to the council if they would like to appoint someone to serve on both roles. But he did.
Two big boards. This
right.
is not like Truth Plaque that may.
Yeah, he was recently appointed to the TAB. He had already attended a planning board meeting before those appointments were made. So I just left him on there for transparency purposes. Yep.
Well taken.
Is the ETJ seat one of the 3 that need to be filled because it's ETJ? Or is that separate because that's county?
Yes, the 3 seats, there's vacant seats for the in-town seats. The ETJ seat is needs to be reappointed or another person because the term is up for, yeah.
Okay, and I think, Wes, if you don't mind too much, just briefly summarizing that discussion for next abstract, just for the benefit of our other members, just in case they don't get a chance to review this in detail. So with that, I guess I would entertain a motion to postpone this to the 18th agenda.
Second.
Moved by Randy, seconded by Barbara. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. I, don't want to brag here,
Don't.
but this has been a,
Still matters for the board.
I know, that's true. That's true. Does anybody want to wreck our efficiency streak here?
You're not out of the woods yet.
Yeah, I don't have any extra matters.
I have a matter.
Yes, please, Randy.
Yeah, so I had, on March 30th, I sent an email in response to Barbara's question regarding, let me just pull it up, regarding the February 14th meeting and the discussion that we had regarding Bowling Creek and phases 3 and 4 and the importance of educational outreach. And so I sent that question on Wednesday the 30th, and I have yet to get a response. And the reason why it's important is because folks in the community are asking about the educational component, since we had a lively conversation about the importance of getting information to the public on what is the controversy and why is it controversial, and what is the information they need in order to be able to engage and weigh in. So I'm bringing this up because last week we did not include any kind of statement that said that educational outreach was going to be it was going to be a component of the scope of work. So I'm raising that question tonight, and I still would like an answer to my email.
My suggestion here, and thank you, Randy, I think that is important for us to discuss. My suggestion would be that this is better discussed with all of our members present. I certainly, have some thoughts that I would be eager to share in that session. What I would hope is if we could perhaps receive in writing from staff a response to Randy, addressing staff's understanding of the public engagement and whether and how education will feature into that public engagement. If we could get a response to that, and then potentially, I guess I'm thinking about what the most appropriate way to discuss that once we are all in session would be. I mean, I don't see, if we get a response from staff, why there's any reason it couldn't be other matters again. If we all kind of know that that's coming and we have that discussion. I don't know that we need a formal agenda item. I don't necessarily want to put that burden on staff to sort of double respond or respond and present. But if that's amenable to everybody, that we get before next meeting an email response to Randy's question from 3:30, then we can anticipate that council will discuss it in toto in other matters next week. At the 18th, yes. Not next week, but the week following.
Good to me.
Just a point of clarity, though. So I know there was a question about the motion, what the motion said. And so I don't remember if public engagement was actually in the motion. Are we revisiting what the motion was, or is it?
I guess the question, as I understand it, and certainly I don't want to speak for Andy, is how staff understands education to fit within the process of public engagement. I know that the language we adopted in the motion does say public engagement by 10:17 to be presented by 10:31, and does not explicitly mention education. But I think it would be helpful to sort of have an understanding of what staff anticipates along those lines as far as education, just as we discuss. And yeah, go ahead, Barbara.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I was just, droning anyway.
Yeah, and since I'm the one that actually initiated all of this for clarity, so what wasn't clear to me, the time frame was very clear, but what wasn't clear to me is what is going to be used to engage the public, like what information is going to be put. We know that the conceptual master plan is already there and all the information in it, but are there other things? And just making sure we're covering all the bases with the information that will be used. I assume that's what Randy is talking about when she says the educational component or updating information, I guess. So that was my reason, because I was like, well, what does public engagement mean, and what are we engaging the public with? So that's what I meant when I probably didn't make that real clear, but certainly that's what I meant. Thanks.
Yeah.
And I just want to be clear that folks who have contacted me are saying, well, I understand the town wants to go forth and roll out public engagement, but, we're not really even understanding where is the information about why this is controversial. What do we need to know in order to weigh in and do so appropriately? And
well, I will say that the motion as adopted does not frame the issue as controversial as a matter of council opinion or policy. And I don't know that, our discussion was focused on the 3 alignments. And in fact, several members spoke about not wanting to frame the issue as controversial within the public engagement process.
well, but there are folks who are asking, why are those the only 3 alignments? And you have to have information to explain why.
And
to be able to say, why are you framing things as narrowly as you are? I mean, I'm giving you the questions that are coming to me, and sooner or later they're going to come to all of us. I just want us to be prepared. That's our responsibility, and to know that if we're asking folks to look at a report, that they understand exactly what's in that report and what's not. And I just want to be sure that one of the components of public engagement is public outreach and education and information. And it doesn't have to be workshops, but it could be just information that explains explains where the information that's not only in the 2009 report, but what's missing from it. Because Barbara's exactly right. What are we asking folks to engage with, and other than an up-down vote.
So I just want to echo Danny. I think that essentially, Mr. Manager, because you said the resolution's pretty clear, I think it's within that generalization of a public process, just getting feedback from staff in terms of like to what degree are we talking about, like educational, how y'all understand it, and thereafter we can have something to respond to. So that's kind of how I'm feeling about it right now.
That would be a start.
Yeah, so the thinking was either, you gave us a scope to go out and do an RFP process, or we go that route. So what we do is come back to you with a plan of what that engagement plan would look like. And at that point, you all could tell us whether or not that meets your expectations or you want to see something different. But we'll bring a plan back to you of how we plan to engage the public and what all that might entail. I don't know. We're having a conversation tomorrow afternoon to kind of think through our next steps, but we'll try to keep you updated as we move along. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Great, and that I think is, I think very appropriate. Appreciate that very much, and having the opportunity to review that plan, I think is, obviously some questions still to answer. And I think the rest. So we'll get a little bit more response over email. The rest is probably better discussed as a full group. But appreciate Randy raising it, and Barbara for bringing it to our attention over email. Definitely want to make sure that we don't lose track of that discussion.
We should do adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.